€169 and 15 cents. That is the price Ireland paid per megawatt hour of electricity on Monday, the highest in Europe, by a distance. France paid €88, Spain paid €44 and 35 cents. Not because of geography, not because of some quirk of weather or market size, because of decisions made in this country over the last 27 years, and one specific decision made in 1999 that most people alive today have never heard of. There is a pipe in this country's energy system that has been leaking for almost 3 decades. The people responsible for fixing it knew it was leaking. They had the tools. They chose not to use them. And right now, the bill for that choice is on its way to your letterbox. Before we go any further, one quick thing. Drop the county or city you are watching from into the comments below and tell me how much time you have right now. Are you on a 10-minute break, or have you ever time to sit with this properly? I ask because this story has layers, and I want to know who is in the room. Wherever you are watching from, welcome. Here is the structure of what we are covering. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what Ireland pays for electricity and why, and who made the specific decision that locked us into paying it. You will know what the Taoiseach said in Armenia on Monday, and what he carefully did not say. And you will know the number that the government has not put in a press release, the number that tells you when the leaking pipe becomes a flood in your home. On Monday, the 4th of May, 2026, Taoiseach Micheál Martin was in Yerevan, the capital of Armenia, attending the European Political Community Summit. Around 50 European leaders gathered there to discuss energy security, economic resilience, and what Europe does next in a world where 2 major conflicts, Ukraine and now Iran, have exposed how thin the energy safety net actually is. A reporter asked Martin whether nuclear power should form part of Ireland's long-term energy mix. He said Ireland should examine seriously options like nuclear power. He said the state should explore all avenues. He cited decades of volatility from reliance on imported fossil fuels. He said offshore wind was the next big play. He did not say the words, "We are lifting the ban." But Taoiseach Simon Harris, speaking separately in Brussels on the same day, said he had no ideological opposition to exploring nuclear. Minister for Public Expenditure Jack Chambers has called for a formal policy debate, and a Fianna Fáil TD has already submitted the Electricity Regulation, Removal of Nuclear Fission Prohibitions, Bill 2026 to the Oireachtas Bills Office. That bill will be debated in the Dáil within 6 months. 3 senior government figures. 1 week. 1 bill already in the pipeline. This is not a balloon being floated in a radio interview. Something has moved. The Green Party's response came quickly. Leader Roderick O'Gorman said nuclear power would be incredibly expensive to introduce in Ireland and would not deliver cheaper bills to households for at least 15 years. He called it a distraction from what the government actually needs to be doing, speeding up the delivery of offshore wind power. He is not wrong about the 15 years. He is also not wrong that the offshore wind program is exactly where the government needs to focus. What he did not address is the reason his own party's predecessors helped create the situation we are now in. The version of this story is that Ireland has a ban on nuclear power. The ban might be lifted, and 2 sides disagree about whether that is a good idea. That version is accurate. It is also incomplete. Here is what it leaves out. The leaking pipe has been leaking since 1999, and the decision to leave it leaking was not made by the Irish people. It was made for them, quietly, in a clause of legislation, without a referendum, without a public vote, without a direct mandate. The Electricity Regulation Act of 1999 banned nuclear fission for electricity generation in the Republic of Ireland. That ban was inserted into the legislation at the instigation of a single Green Party TD. Not a government mandate, not a constitutional requirement, not a national referendum. 1 TD, 1 clause. The Irish people were never asked. That clause has been enforced for 27 years. In those 27 years, Ireland has experienced the energy shock of 2008, the price spiral after Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, and now the current crisis triggered by the United States-Israeli attack on Iran and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil and 25% of global fertilizer trade passes. Each time, Ireland felt the pain more sharply than any comparable European economy. Each time, the structural reason was the same: 50% dependency on imported natural gas for electricity generation, zero domestic gas storage, and no LNG terminal. And here is the detail that changes everything. In 2026, former Green Party leader Eamon Ryan, the political heir to the party that was the architect of that ban, wrote in the Irish Times that Ireland's future energy needs should be met by, and I am paraphrasing precisely, renewables and nuclear. The architect's party is now arguing for what the architect banned. That is the shape of the shift. That was the surface. The real story starts here, with the number buried inside the Celtic Interconnector delay. If this breakdown is what has been missing from your feed, hit subscribe. This channel covers Irish news the way it deserves to be covered. No spin, no hysteria, just the full picture. Now, back to the numbers. The Celtic Interconnector is a 575-kilometre undersea cable being built between East Cork and Brittany in France. It is Ireland's first direct electricity connection to the European mainland. It received €530 million in European Union funding in 2019. It was supposed to go live in 2026. Live, it will give Ireland access to 700 megawatts of French electricity, and France, as mentioned, generates 70% of its power from nuclear. It will not go live in 2026. EirGrid's website now lists the commissioning date as expected for the fourth quarter of 2028, a delay of at least 2 years. Last week, when the Irish Examiner reported the delay, Fianna Fáil TD Malcolm Byrne described the news as deeply worrying and said he was stunned when he could not get a clear answer in the Dáil about when the project would actually be finished. The interconnector was the one near-term route out of Ireland's gas dependency. It is now 2 years away at minimum, and even at 2 years away, adverse weather conditions on the marine insulation work could push it further. The leaking pipe was supposed to get a patch in 2026. The patch has been delayed to 2028. Meanwhile, Ireland's offshore wind programme, the Taoiseach's next big play, is also behind schedule. The target is 5 gigawatts of offshore wind capacity by 2030. The industry body Wind Energy Ireland describes that target as unlikely to be met under current circumstances. A senior lecturer at University College Cork has assessed the earliest realistic date for new offshore wind farms as approximately 2032. The offshore wind auctions that were supposed to be completed in 2024 were pushed to 2025. The follow-on auction is now expected in 2026. The planning process for each project takes a minimum of 2 years after application. Construction takes 3. Ireland could incur European Union fines of up to €4.4 billion annually for missing its 2030 climate targets. €4.4 billion per year in potential fines. Targets that the government's own industry contractors are saying cannot be met. Here is what that means for the person watching this, paying the bill. Senior energy industry sources told the Irish Times that Irish household electricity bills may begin rising in May or June of this year, not because of sudden drama, but because of the quiet mechanics of how suppliers buy power. Energy companies hedge their supply months or years in advance, buying gas and electricity futures on the wholesale market. Those forward contracts have now expired or are expiring, and what replaces them reflects the current market, the market after the Strait of Hormuz closed, after Qatari LNG production facilities were physically damaged, after wholesale gas prices on the British market almost doubled from 81 cent per therm in December to 151 cent in March of this year. The average Irish household currently pays €1,700 per year for electricity. That is already the highest pre-subsidy cost in Europe. Energy analysts project that under a moderate scenario, meaning the Iran conflict continues at current intensity, the additional annual cost to Irish households will be between €600 and €650. Under a severe, prolonged disruption scenario, that additional cost rises to over €1,500 per household per year. €1,500 on top of 1,700. from a pipe that has been leaking since 1999. The government has already moved twice on fuel costs. In April of this year, it agreed 2 packages to ease motor fuel prices, at a combined cost to the Exchequer of approximately €505 million, following fuel protests and road blockades around the country. The Taoiseach has said there will be further cost of living measures in October's budget. He has not specified what form they will take. None of those measures touch the structural problem. They are pressure relief on a pipe that is still leaking. For those watching from the United Kingdom or the United States, here is why this matters where you are too. The war in Iran has not just hit Irish energy bills. It has hit every economy that runs on imported gas. Imported gas, degas. The difference is that Ireland sits at the end of every supply chain with no storage, no LNG terminal, and, until 2028 at earliest, no direct connection to continental Europe's energy grid. When the shock comes, Ireland absorbs it in full. That structural exposure is not a weather event. It is a policy choice that has been deferred since 1999. So here is where we actually are. The Taoiseach has said nuclear should be examined seriously. A bill to lift the ban is in the Oireachtas Bills Office and will reach the Dáil within 6 months. 1 in 3 Irish adults now supports building nuclear plants, according to a Red Sea survey commissioned by KPMG, though opposition still sits at approximately 45%. The debate is no longer theoretical. It is on the legislative calendar. But nuclear is a 15-year project at minimum. The Celtic Interconnector, the actual near-term fix, is delayed to late 2028. The offshore wind programme, that was supposed to be generating power before nuclear could ever be built, is already years behind its own schedule. And the bills that may arrive in May or June are not waiting for any of this to resolve. The leaking pipe is still leaking. The debate about what material to use for the patch has been going on for 27 years, and the water is now on the floor. What to watch in the coming days? Whether the Department of the Environment or Minister of State Timmy Dooley issues a formal position on the O'Connor Bill, and whether a date for its second stage debate is confirmed. That will tell you whether Monday's statement in Armenia was a genuine policy signal or a pressure valve. The language will be careful either way. The mechanism behind it will not lie. This is the Ireland that was built by the decisions made in this country's energy policy between 1999 and today. The choices are still being made. The bill has arrived.